Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are moving on to the remaining phyla of non-chordates. So in the last video, we were discussed about the characteristics of non-chordates. The non-chordates like Porifera, Coelenterata, Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes and till Ascihelminthes. Now from here, we are moving on to the remaining phyla like Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata and hemichordates. Now, see, first of all, we are actually going to discuss about the habitat. So when we will talk about the habitat of different phyla, if we'll talk about the Annelida, see Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, we can see in aquatic form as well as in the terrestrial form. Okay, annelids, arthropod and mollusca we can see in aquatic form as well as in the terrestrial form. Now when we will look at the echinodermata and hemichordata, see echinodermata and hemichordates are the phyla which are exclusively marine. Very important. See the phyla which are exclusively marine, that is actually echinodermata and hemichordata. See last video also we were discussed about one of the phyla which are exclusively marine. Okay, have you remember? Okay, see if you remember, please comment it. Actually the phyla which are exclusively marine. Okay, now see we are moving on to the next character, that is actually the body organization. See here we can see in metamerically segmentation we have studied in the first phyla which are actually having metamerically segmentation, that is actually Annelida. Now here in Arthropoda we can see a head region, thorax and abdomen. Now in case of Mollusca, head region, muscular foot and visceral hump. Then Echinodermata, as we know that like a star like, the body is actually star like. Hemichordates actually having proboscis, collar and trunk. Okay, so this is actually the general body organization in case of this organism. Now see in case of locomotory structure, so when we were looking about the locomotory structure, see annelids, they are having longitudinal and circular muscle. That is very important. The phyla, the first phyla which is actually having longitudinal and circular muscle, that is actually Annelida. And then they are having, in case of Nereis, the example Nereis, they are having parapodia as their like a locomotory organ. Okay, Nereis is having parapodia as their locomotory organ. Now in case of arthropods, we know that the term itself indicating arthros, joint, poda means actually appendages. So here they are having a joined appendages. Okay, as a locomotory organ they are having joined appendages. Now already I told you that a muscular foot is present in case of molluscus. Okay, molluscus they are having a muscular foot. Now, in case of echinodermata, they don't have any specialized locomotory structure. Actually, their movement or locomotion take place with the help of water vascular system. Now, in case of hemichordates, also there is no specialized locomotory organ. Okay. Now, next one. See, in case of exoskeleton, exoskeleton is actually absent in case of annelids. In case of Annelida, the exoskeleton is absent. In case of arthropod, they have a chitinous exoskeleton. Okay, arthropod is having a chitinous exoskeleton, and in case of mollusca, a calcareous shell. Okay, mollusca is having a calcareous shell, as actually that exoskeleton is made up of calcareous shell. Now in case of echinodermata also it is absent, hemichordata also it is absent. Okay, so keep in your mind all these characters as like this you have to study, because always question can be asked based on the comparison. Okay, they will compare different phyla and ask questions. Okay, now see here, as we can say that respiratory structure. See in case of Annelida, respiratory organ or respiration take place through the body surface. Okay, in case of Annelida, respiration take place through the body surface. And in case of arthropoda, see they are having different respiratory structure. Okay, so gills as a respiratory structure, book gills are there, tracheal system are there, book lungs. Okay, gills, book gills, tracheal system, and book lungs. So these are the respiratory structure in case of arthropoda. Now, in case of mollusca, actually the respiratory structure in mollusca is actually a feather-like gills. A feather-like gills, they are present in a mantle cavity. See, as I have already told you that there is a visceral hump. So visceral hump, there we can see a cavity, that is actually mantle cavity. So in the mantle cavity, we can see a feather-like gills as the respiratory structure. Now, in case of echinodermata, actually there is no specialized respiratory structure in case of echinoderm. They are actually getting this oxygen through water vascular system. And in case of hemichordate, they are having gills as their respiratory structure. Okay, so keep in your mind. So the respiratory structure in case of Annelida, body surface, and here gills, book gills, tracheal system, and book lungs. And in case of molluscus, feather-like gills, water vascular system in case of echinodermata, and case of hemichordate, gills as their respiratory structure. Now, so when we will talk about the circulatory system, see here, a circulatory system is closed in annelida. So very important, annelids is having actually a closed circulatory system. See, the remaining arthropoda, mollusca, echinodermata, hemichordata, they are having actually an open circulatory system. Okay, all these other phyla are having open circulatory system. Okay, now excretory organ. Already I told you that excretory, we were discussed about different excretory organ. So in the last phyla, so excretory organ, here it is actually annelids, they are having nephridia as their excretory organ. Okay, so annelida, nephridia is the excretory organ. Malpighian tubules in case of arthropods. Okay, arthropod is having Malpighian tubules as excretory organ, and mollusca, they are having gills as their excretory organ. So echinoderms, they don't have any specialized excretory organ, and case of hemichordata, proboscis gland as the excretory organ. See, this and all actually it is very important. Okay, now next, annelida. See, annelids are actually, they are actually, some of the annelids are monoecious. For example, earthworms and leech, they are actually monoecious. That means, see here, male and female reproductive organs are present in a same individual. Okay, dioecious in case of Nereis. Okay, so there the male and females are actually separate in case of Nereis. So in case of annelida, earthworm and leech is actually monoecious, very important. Earthworm and leech is monoecious. Nereis is actually dioecious in case of annelids. Now in case of arthropoda, they are actually dioecious, and all the remaining phyla like molluscus are dioecious, echinoderms, hemichordates also dioecious. Okay, only in the annelida we can see monoecious. That is also earthworm and leech are the examples. Now see here, fertilization, this is also very important, as like in the last videos I have already mentioned about the important. Okay, so here external or internal fertilization we can see in annelids. Okay, external as well as internal. And arthropoda is having internal fertilization. Arthropoda is having internal fertilization. Mollusca, it is also having, actually it is having external fertilization. So here external or internal in case of annelida. Arthropoda is having external fertilization. Arthropoda is having internal fertilization. Molluscus is having external fertilization. Echinodermata, hemichordata is also having external fertilization. So as like this, if you will compare it and write it and study, easily you can get the characters. So always question, I told you that there will be doubt if you are actually going to the examination without compare and study. So there will be lot of confusion. You will be having lot of confusion when we will see the questions. So for avoiding such confusions, we should have to study the file as like by making a tabular column. Okay, so here external or internal, internal, external, external, external fertilization. Keep in your mind. Now the last one, that is actually development. So development, in case of annelids, they are actually having direct or indirect development. Arthropoda is also having direct or indirect development. Okay, now all the remaining phyla like Echinoderms, Mollusca and Hemichordata, they are having indirect development. Okay, so direct, indirect development in case of Annelida and Arthropoda. Actually, all the remaining are actually like molluscus, echinoderms, and hemichordates are actually having indirect development. Okay, so these are the major phyla and their characters in case of non-chordates. Okay, so I hope you got an idea about this. So when you are studying for NEET examination, always keep in your mind you should have to make a tabular column and compare the characters of each phyla, and you have to study accordingly. Okay, so remaining characters of chordates we can discuss in the next class. Thank you.